सुनने के लिए बहुत उत्सुक है।
थैंक यू मैम। मैं ये बताना चाहूंगी कि यहाँ पर जो आदिवासी कल्चर है उसमें से बहुत सारी भाषा विलुप्त प्राय था, हाँ, मगर अभी नहीं है। यहाँ पर हमारा चौरसा जो एरिया है, जो नक्सल एरिया जिसे कहते हैं चिंगम डिस्ट्रिक्ट का, वहाँ पर आदिवासी कल्चर से जुड़े हुए जितने समुदाय को हम लोगों ने जोड़ा था, वहाँ एक रीजनल डायरेक्टर थे बिलन सर, उन लोग जोड़ा था। एक म्यूजियम चौरसा बना हुआ है, वहाँ आदिवासी कल्चर का सारी चीजें हैं और उन लोग से तैयार किया गया डिक्शनरी, मल्टीलैंग्वेज डिक्शनरी है। आदिवासी में भी 5 भाषा का डिक्शनरी रखा हुआ और उसके साथ क्षेत्रीय भाषा को भी जोड़ा गया है। अगर हम कम्युनिटी का साथ ले, क्योंकि अभी अगर हम जितने भी हमारा आदिवासी एरिया है वहां पर पढ़ाना चाहेंगे तो हमको शायद आदिवासी लिपि और आदिवासी भाषा में पढ़ाने वाले शिक्षक नहीं मिलेंगे, क्योंकि बहुत सालों साल जो मैंने हम लोग उसका भी नजर नहीं दे पाए। जो भी हुआ है, टीचर्स अब अपनी भाषा में पढ़ना भी छोड़ चुके हैं, तो इसलिए हमको कम्युनिटी को जोड़ के शिक्षा को आगे लेना पड़ेगा अप टू क्लास 5। और जहां तक रीजनल लैंग्वेज है, जैसे झारखंड में 5 रीजनल लैंग्वेज भी है, मगधी है, मैथिली है, उड़िया है, बंगाली है। झारखंड एक मिक्स कल्चर को दर्शाता है, तो वो भाषा को हम लोग कंसर्निंग स्टेट से बात कर सकते हैं। जैसे उड़ीसा गवर्नमेंट है, वो झारखंड के साथ बहुत अच्छा रेपो है। उड़ीसा गवर्नमेंट बुक सप्लाई करता है झारखंड में, उड़िया बुक, और उड़ीसा गवर्नमेंट टीचर भी देते हैं, पेमेंट वो करते हैं और यहाँ का उड़िया स्कूल में उड़िया लैंग्वेज से पढ़ाते हैं, ना कि मीडियम ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शन। मीडियम ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शन को हम लोग ऑप्शनल के रूप में छोड़े हैं, क्योंकि अल्टीमेटली हमको आगे जाके हिंदी को एक मीडियम ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शन मानना पड़ रहा है। मैं गवर्नमेंट स्कूल का बात ज्यादा ही कह रही हूँ, इसलिए हम लोग कम्युनिटी को जोड़ेंगे। और जैसे यहाँ जो टेट परीक्षा होती है, टीचर एलिजिबल टेस्ट, इसमें झारखंड सरकार ये किया है कि एक क्षेत्रीय भाषा में आपको परीक्षा देना होगा, आपको पास करना होगा, तभी आप टीचर बन पाएंगे। ये एक बड़ी अच्छी पहल है, और इसको कारगर करने के लिए हम लोग को प्लेसमेंट के ऊपर में नजर देना पड़ेगा कि टीचर को सही जगह में प्लेसमेंट हो रहा कि नहीं। बिहार क्षेत्र में थोड़ा सा हमारा जो एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में टीचर का जो एलिजिबिलिटी है, उसको थोड़ा सा हम कम बेसी आंक सकते हैं अगर हम कल्चर को आगे लेके जाना चाहते हैं। क्योंकि बिना कल्चर का नॉलेज में बच्चों का जो मनोवैज्ञानिक जो एक जो उसका विकास है वो रुक जाता है और अपने आप को कहीं ना कहीं एक कोना में बैठा हुआ महसूस करता है। जब तक हम इसका कल्चर को अपने में आत्मसात करके ये नहीं महसूस कराएंगे बच्चा तुम जो सीखा, तुम जो जाना वो बहुत अच्छी चीजें हैं। इसलिए हमें एक कम्युनिटी को बहुत ज्यादा साथ में लेना पड़ेगा और मदर टंग को हम जी मीडियम में इंस्ट्रक्शन भले ना माने, मगर एक सब्जेक्ट के रूप में हमको ये ऑप्शनल नहीं, इसको हम मैंडेटरी करना पड़ेगा।
Okay, I think both the panelists have tried to sort of share with us, one from a perspective of the preeminence of English medium that is being used largely in the private school sector, and the other is an experience from a remote tribal area where already there has been a collaborative effort by both the governments of Odisha and Jharkhand coming together to actually promote multilingual education in about 5 languages through pictorial representations, through multilingual dictionaries. So I think for us, the takeaway from this particular practitioners discussion that we had today of 2 very varied experiences that have been shared with us is that we have as a policy accepted that multilingual reaps a lot of benefits, but the country has not really moved towards that in terms of accepting that particular recommendation because of the preeminence of English language and the apprehension that would we be putting our children at a lower level of development by moving away from English language teaching. And this apprehension should be taken away by actually speaking to the stakeholders, mainly the parents and the community. We have in the NEP's discussions today seen that we have looked at art-related pedagogy and toy-related pedagogy and foundational literacy and numeracy and the early childhood care and education. All these efforts will not really be very effective unless we are able to actually implement in spirit the idea of mother tongue education for the early years. These are all very related. If you could see the examples that came from Dr. Anju in Gujarat, the toy related kind of pedagogy, the toy related pedagogy, when it is taught in a local context and in the language that the child will understand, the benefits of that kind of toy related pedagogy would be much more larger than when it is being taught in a language that is foreign to the child. So the teacher training will be very critical, and the fact that, like she has mentioned in Jharkhand, that for the teacher eligibility test, passing in a given language that is local to that particular state is very critical. So you have a complex situation where more than maybe 5 languages are being spoken in different states, and we have to provide instruction in all those 5 languages, and therefore build the teacher capacities to have. We actually need to build a cadre of teachers. We need to actually start using the social workers and the community in this exercise till we actually reach a level of preparedness where across the country in the 10-year span of time, we will be actually able to implement mother tongue education in a seamless manner, so that they learn subjects in a language that they're most familiar with, go on to learn other languages as a part of multilingualism, acquire the proficiency to have the international languages as well as English, and at the same time make a coordinated effort by the parents, by the teachers, by the community, by the social workers, by the institutions as well as the state governments, working together with the training institutions like the diets and so on, with the ground level CRCs and VRCs coming together to see that mother tongue instruction becomes a reality. So I think that I would like to conclude this session and thank the panelists for having shared their very divergent experiences in English medium teaching as well as a tribal area experience. But the challenges are still there for us, and I think we need to start thinking how we can take stakeholder feedback to understand, to make mother tongue instruction a reality. I think I'll conclude over here saying that it is not a hard job, and we also have to look at multilingualism from the other aspect, that is of promoting Indian languages, promoting the learning of other languages that are there within the 8th schedule of the Constitution, and also to preserve what we call are the endangered languages, all being taken together from the point of view of language learning. I'll conclude over here and thank the Ministry of Education as well as Secretary Anita Karul Madam Ji and all others who have given me an opportunity to participate in today's conclave. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shakila ji, for actually demystifying this whole concept and this whole topic of the NEP, which is really under discussion in the whole country. And there are a lot of misconceptions, a lot of misgivings, a lot of miscommunication on this part. And again, it stems from language. So what happens is that one person speaks in a language and the others, there is a miscommunication and it goes down in the wrong way. So as Dr. Pandey was mentioning, that mother tongue, teaching in mother tongue is one thing, and teaching a language as a subject is another thing. And it is not as if they are, mutually exclusive. They can be done side by side. And in fact, a child who is learning a language other than his mother tongue, in his mother tongue, with the help of his mother tongue, is able to learn that language much better than trying to learn it as an alien language. In fact, I had a very interesting meeting with the person who is heading the Canadian Secondary School Board of Education. He was in India and we had this meeting. And he mentioned that teaching in any language other than the mother tongue in the foundational years is like teaching physics to a child in grade 1. So, which really sums it up very, very well. So thank you very much, Shakila ji, for this very interesting session. And thank you, Dr. Pandey. And
thank you,
thank you, संध्या जी, आपका जो एक्सपीरियंस है इतना वास्ट है और आप इतना बेहतरीन काम कर रही हैं. वी आर रियली ग्रेटफुल दैट यू कुड जॉइन अस. थैंक यू सो मच.
थैंक यू.
Now speak. Yeah.
Now I would request NIC to play a NEP based video.
नीति 2020 दे रही एक नए रिफॉर्म को आकार, कर रही अनेक सपने साकार.
लोग बरसों से चली आ रही एजुकेशन सिस्टम में जो बदलाव चाहते थे वो उन्हें देखने को मिले. कुछ लोगों के मन में ये सवाल आना बहुत स्वाभाविक है. इतना बड़ा रिफॉर्म कागज पर तो कर दिया, लेकिन इसे जमीन पर कैसे उतारा जाएगा? यानी अब सबकी निगाहें इसके इम्प्लीमेंटेशन की तरफ है. आप सभी राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति के इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में और उस काम में सीधे तौर पर जुड़े हैं. आप सबकी भूमिका बहुत ज्यादा है, बहुत अहम है. जहां तक पॉलिटिकल विल की बात है, मैं पूरी तरह कमिटेड हूं. मैं पूरी तरह आपके साथ हूं.
तो चलो राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति के इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में अहम भूमिका निभाते हैं. चलो नया भारत बनाते हैं. राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति 2020 नए भारत की आधारशिला. नीति 2020 नए भारत की नींव रख रही है. देश को
Invite for the class. Please. Ask them to go ahead and release it.
Are they playing? Okay. Moving on to the last session of the day. The topic for this session is no hard separation. And now I would like to invite chairperson for this session, Professor Manjul Bhargava.
Has he joined?
मेरी बात सुनाई दे रही है? नमस्ते अनिता जी.
Namaste, Manjul ji. How are you?
Good. You can hear me okay?
It must be, yeah, I can hear you. It must be what, 3 a.m. in the morning out there?
No, now it's early morning, 6 a.m.
6 a.m. Okay. So sorry to disturb you all the time like this, but thank you for joining in.
Oh, not at all. Well, you all are doing such wonderful work, and it's such an honor to. I don't feel sleepy at all because all the talks are so inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Shall I start? Okay. Well, thanks so much, Secretary of School Education Anita Karwalji, NCERT Director Professor Hrishikesh Senapati-ji, all the organizers of this wonderful conclave, teachers, parents, students, of course, panel speakers, and all stakeholders present today. Aap sabko mera sadar namaskar. Welcome to this final session today on no hard separation. The National Education Policy 2020 strongly recommends the breaking of silos in school education. That's what we mean by no hard separation. Namely, that there should be no hard separation between academic and vocational streams. There should be no hard separation between the arts and the sciences, or between curricular and extracurricular activities. So the underlying principle is that all fields of human endeavor, including the arts and the sciences, humanities, languages, sports, commerce, vocational subjects, and so on, are important and interrelated, and hence should be pursued in a holistic manner without boundaries, the purpose being to unleash the creativity and full individuality and potential of each student. Arts and sports integrated pedagogy have already been discussed in a previous session this morning as an extremely valuable way to bring together different subjects. States are being encouraged to look into innovative methods to achieve the aims of greater flexibility and exposure to and enjoyment of a wider range of subjects by our students. Today we have two speakers with us who have thought a great deal about the benefits of eliminating such artificial separations from our schools and how this may be achieved. Our first speaker, Sushri Manu Gulatiji, is an award-winning teacher in Delhi government schools with path-breaking work in inspiring students and striving for gender equality. Our second speaker, Sushri Ramya Parameshwar Ayyarji, is an award-winning teacher of biotechnology at the Kendriya Vidyalaya in IIT Guwahati, developing many innovative and holistic practices for inspiring students to pursue science and scientific research. I'd like to begin this session by requesting Sushri Gulatiji to please present her remarks on this topic. Thank you so much, Sushri Gulatiji. Namaste. Thank you so much.
Thank you. A very good afternoon, everyone. Sabhi ko namaskar.
No, Manuji, you are not audible. You have to unmute yourself.
A very good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible now?
No, your volume has to be more.
Is it okay now?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay. As teachers, we cannot afford to have low volume. That's fine. Thank you so much. I'll be cautious now. Yeah. A very good afternoon, everyone. Sabhi ko namaskar. Thank you so much, Professor Manjul Bhargava, for such an overwhelming introduction. Thank you, Ramya ji, for being the co-speaker in this session. Before I begin sharing my thoughts, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to the Ministry of Education, Government of India, gratitude to Secretary Madden for giving me this honor to be present at such a prestigious platform, a platform where since morning, finest educational stalwarts have been sharing their expert views on the Progressive National Education Policy 2020. With due permission from the Honorable Chairperson, I would like to proceed with sharing my thoughts. I'll today be sharing my views on no hard separation of curriculum in different streams and discipline in education. That is the feature of flexibility envisaged in NEP 2020. Most of us are aware of the fact that the policy aims to address the many growing developmental imperatives of our country, and it is comprehensive and is actually aligned with the aspirational goals of the 21st century education. It envisages transformation in India's education system to help the country's youth compete globally. And for this, as Professor Manjul very rightly mentioned, that it lays particular emphasis on the development of the creative potential of each individual. And to unleash this creative potential, the policy envisages flexibility as one of the salient features which we may say is actually missing or lacking in the present system of education. Today, I will share in brief the various stages and areas where the policy beautifully envisages flexibility as one of the essential features of education. So I'll quickly share the points and then we'll take up some examples from the school life and from the college life to share it better. The policy lays emphasis on flexibility in choice of subjects at the school level, both at the secondary and at the senior secondary stage. It also lays emphasis on flexibility in curriculum and novel and engaging course options. Not to miss that the policy highlights flexibility in choice of subjects, not only at the school level, but also at the undergraduate level. Flexibility in duration and structure of the undergraduate degree programs as well. And interestingly, There's a provision of multiple entry-exit option with appropriate certifications within this period. This means that the policy ensures flexibility in curriculum and duration of courses across all stages of education, beginning from the school education to the higher education. It's not that the policy envisages flexibility merely in school education. It's in a graded manner, beginning from the school education to the higher education. The policy shows flexibility. In order to understand the flexibility in curriculum that we are currently talking about, it is important to understand the present position in the context. Presently, there is a, we may say, rigid separation of disciplines and streaming of students into narrow areas of study at the secondary, senior secondary, and even at the higher secondary level of education. Let us first take the example of class 9th and 10th. Presently, a student studying in class 9th and am I audible?
Yes, you are, but somebody's mic is on, so there is an issue. I request all the audience to please mute their mics. Please check your mics and mute. Thank you, Manuji. Please go on.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Presently, a student who is studying in class 9th or 10th studies 5 compulsory subjects. That's 2 languages, math, science, and social science. And in some cases, the student might opt for an additional language. But he or she doesn't really have any further options to explore. No more choice of subjects to choose from. Let's see what NEP 2020 envisages in this context. NEP 2020 envisages greater flexibility by offering a wide choice of subjects to students of class 9th and 10th. And it's important to understand how this will work and how CBSE has revised its curriculum in the light of this. Along with the 5 compulsory subjects that are being offered presently, students will be offered 2 optional subjects. First optional subject will be a specific occupational skill subject. For example, retailing, beauty and wellness, banking and insurance, healthcare. The list is very exhaustive. The list goes on. Second optional subject offered is a third language or any other academic subject like music, home science, NCC, painting. Very interesting list. If I share my experience as a teacher, what I can recall is that many of my government students at this stage, they joined paid courses on beauty and wellness outside the school to augment their family income. Now, with the introduction of these courses in the school curriculum, these students, I believe, will not have to struggle much outside the school. This was what we were talking about, the secondary stage flexibility in the curriculum at NEP. Let's move on quickly to the senior secondary stage. And even at the senior secondary stage in school, presently we believe that rigidity prevails in the curriculum. Different subjects are clubbed or combined into separate streams, arts, humanities, or commerce and sciences. Furthermore, there is hard separation between academic and vocational streams as well. Even hard separation between curricular, extracurricular, and co-curricular activities and subjects. This clubbing of subjects into separate streams is what causes rigidity. So it's important for us to understand rigidity with the help of an example. And I think this will make, help us understand what rigidity is like in the present context. Any student who is studying biology or who is interested in biology, presently, the student has to compulsorily study physics and chemistry in the science stream. Irrespective of the interest or the passion. Dr. Anju talked about passion very passionately in the previous session, and we lay a lot of emphasis on the passion of the students. Now, irrespective of the interest, the student has to take up physics and chemistry. Now, similarly, if a student wishes to take business studies as a subject, he or she compulsorily presently has to study accountancy as well. Now, what does NEP envisage? NEP 2020 envisages greater flexibility by offering a wide choice of subjects to students of class 11th and 12th. Now, the beauty is that the choice of subjects is independent of the other subject. That means there is no clubbing of subjects compulsorily. The subject offered in choice are basically in two categories, the academic subject and the skill subject. And I reiterate the interesting part here that each subject opted by the student can be independent of the other subject. For example, a student who wishes to study biology now need not compulsorily study physics and chemistry. Furthermore, he or she can actually opt diverse subjects like biology with music, history, legal studies, NCC, painting, and many other academic options like this. Very interesting options. The list of these academic subjects is very exhaustive, and the students definitely, because of this, get a wide choice to choose from. Not only this, the students have a vast variety to choose from the skill subjects as well. Like automotive, web application, geospatial technology, agriculture, etc. It is these wide choices that ensure that education is not in watertight compartments. Now we cannot afford to be straight-jacketed anymore. And it is these choices that actually bring flexibility in the curriculum that we are today talking about. A very pertinent question arises here, and that question is that we are talking about flexibility, but how will this flexibility help our students? How will our students gain from the feature of flexibility that NEP 2020 envisages? Now, no hard separation in curriculum, I believe that will give every individual an opportunity to choose and study subjects according to his or her choice, need, interest, or passion. This means that the students will be able to choose or customize or tailor their own individual curriculum. This choice of subjects in accordance to one's passion and interest will help students become more adaptable and more productive human beings in today's rapidly changing world. A very interesting part here is that, apart from these subjects of choice, certain contemporary subjects like artificial intelligence, design thinking, organic living, and global citizenship education, certain subjects will be introduced at relevant stages of schooling, to develop various important skills among students at all levels. Let's now think, what is the need of introducing these new courses, and why at all students should study these new courses or new subjects that have been introduced? We all know that in this fast-paced, moving world, our needs, our challenges, technology, it's ever so changing, and to fulfill our needs, to overcome the challenges that we face, the curriculum must have, new courses of study. So, keeping this in mind, I believe that NEP 2020 has introduced certain new courses of contemporary subjects as well. We move on to another feature of the policy that portrays flexibility, and I believe that many teachers and educationists and researchers who are watching the program live now would understand that the pain the students go through and the high stakes that have been attached with the board exam in our country. All students, according to NEP 2020, will be allowed to take up board exams on up to 2 occasions during any given school year. That's one main examination and one for the improvement if desired. it's not compulsory for every child to take up the improvement exam. Now, this I found very, very interesting because, the best of the two attempts of the student will be taken as the final score. So I think this is a big step to eliminate the high stake aspect of the board exam. And as a teacher, in my experience or maybe in my journey, I would say that this is definitely going to reduce the one-time performance stress levels that the students go through while they take the board exam. We have been talking of NEP envisaging flexibility in school education. I'll quickly move on to NEP envisaging flexibility in higher education, because we believe that again school education and higher education, they are in coherence with each other. They must not be again in watertight compartments. In higher education, undergraduate degree will be of either 3 years or 4 years of duration. But interesting is that there will be multiple entry-exit options within this period with the appropriate certification. So for example, a student who pursues just 1 year will receive a certificate after completing 1 year in the discipline or the field, as to a diploma after 2 years of education at the undergraduate level, bachelor's degree at 3 years, and a bachelor with research degree at the 4 years of the program. And in addition to the flexibility in length of the degree program that we just talked about, the policy also envisages flexibility in the structure of the program, in terms of multidisciplinarity of the courses and in the choice of subjects as a major and minor. So for example, I think let's take an example and we'll quickly be able to comprehend this better, that an individual who is pursuing law, if desires, may opt for a course on journalism simultaneously. Let's take another example, that the student who is pursuing physics major, if wishes, may pursue physics as a minor subject simultaneously. So with all these reforms at the school and at the higher education level, we believe that the policy paves its path towards ensuring holistic and multidisciplinary education in the 21st century. We've been talking about this since morning, listening to the expert views of these stalwarts. And we must not forget that this holistic, multidisciplinary or integrated education that we are talking about, only such education aims at developing all capacities of human beings, be it intellectual, aesthetic, social, physical, moral, or emotional, in an integrated manner. And even researchers have consistently shown that integration in education, it leads to positive learning outcomes amongst. And this integration and multidisciplinarity that we are talking about, this is what increases social and moral awareness. Just coming to the end of my thoughts, I'll quickly, to explain this point a little further, let me take quickly 1 or 2 questions, and I want everybody who's watching the program right now to ponder over these questions along with me. Do we think that a chartered accountant must only study finance to lead a happy life? Or similarly, do we think an engineer must only study engineering and technology to be successful in life? In my view, the answer is a big no. As individuals, we must also study the society in which we live, the relationship that we share amongst and different individuals share with each other. So I think everybody needs to ponder over these pertinent and thought-provoking questions. And NEP 2020 envisages in this context that even now the engineering institutions like IIT will now move ahead towards more holistic and multidisciplinary approach with more of arts and humanity. With this high level of flexibility, freedom and no hard separation feature in curriculum at different stages of education that we have been talking about in the last, say, about 12, 13, 15 minutes. The policy, I believe, bravely marches or inches towards holistic development of our students to make them well-rounded individuals. These progressive features would aim to transform India into a vibrant knowledge society and a global knowledge superpower suited to the 21st century. As a teacher, especially working in government of Delhi, I feel that all this can be achieved only by bringing out the unique capability of each student, of each child in the class, and that is what I believe policy beautifully. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Manuji. Thank you, Manuji. I'm still hearing an echo though. Is it possible to mute everybody? Thank you, Manuji. That was very well explained and very insightful. I especially liked how you explained that holistic education with the flexibility in curriculum will help to develop all capacities of our students: intellectual, aesthetic, social, physical, emotional, and moral in an integrated manner. So thank you so much. I also really like your purple background behind you. I now request Sushri Ayerji to present her remarks. Ramyaji, are you there? Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Professor Manjul Bhargava, for your kind introduction. Thank you, Manuji, for your valuable insights, both in school education as well as in higher education. Very good afternoon to all of you. First, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Ministry of Education, Government of India, for providing me this opportunity to share my experiences. What lends to immortality of a teacher? I say it is the end of teaching that lends immortality. Engaging students to learn across the curriculum, provide the edge that live with students forever. The National Education Policy 2020 has created this premise by blurring the much separation between the curricular and co-curricular, vocational and academic, and in between the streams of arts and science. I want to highlight 6 features that I thought was very relevant to this topic, the 6 E's to the future. I want to share my PowerPoint slide. The first feature that I want to highlight is that it envisions learning preparedness for global citizenship. National education policy is reformative and historic in nature, which ensures to raise Indian education to new heights. As Manuji rightly pointed out, it is going to create an equitable and vibrant knowledge society by providing high quality education to all. And its main aims, of course, is to develop global citizens, but deeply connected to grassroots and infuse in them a deep sense of respect towards constitutional duties and rights. The future generation equipped with these skills and values will be holistic and responsible for sustainable development and well-being. The second feature is emphasizes metacognition. If it is implemented in letter and spirit, it is definitely going to contribute to nation building. The passion and philosophy of education will be to motivate students on how to think rather than what to think. And students need to adopt, reinvent themselves to the changing world to emerge successfully. The third E is, of course, since Manuji has already talked about this multidisciplinary approach, I do not want to go further into this very much, but still the fact that it highlights the multidisciplinarity along with the concepts of diversity and local context, and of course focus on conceptual understanding. Modern societies are strained by science and technology, but the civic structures and social norms are not advancing as much as science and technology. So there is a differential evolution there. So this is where NEP so succinctly comes in to remediate if there is a lack in equity or quality. The next one is it encourages deeper learning. There are 6 competencies that comes under this deeper learning framework. First one, master the core academic content. Second one, think critically and solve the complex problems. The third one is work collaboratively. Fourth, communicate effectively. Fifth, learn how to learn. And sixth is develop academic mindsets. The 50 is it eschews the differentiation between curricular and co-curricular. Of course, I want to stress upon the fact that when NEP we are talking about, there is only curriculum. There is no co-curriculum or curriculum. It's only curriculum. Now, there is a beautiful thing blend between how co-curricular activities is going to help in the curricular activities. For example, if co-curricular activities are implemented, designed, planned in the right fashion, it is going to help each and every student to progress in their own pace, but of course in the continuum of learning. The competencies and skills through these curricular activities can be applied to the academic studies and vice versa. It provides the clarity that is required for an academic concept to make sense and learning capabilities. And in return, the development of leadership skills, community skills, creativity, decision making, time management, organizational skills, all these things can be learned by the proper integration of both of these things. The last feature is enables subject integration. An integrated curricular model is the most appropriate for developing competencies. Learning outcome-based education is a result-based learning model that focuses on equipping students with the knowledge, skills, and attitudes that will be relevant to their professional practice. It entails many benefits. Number one, it fosters flexibility. It understands difficult concepts and adapts to solve the complex problems. Is student-centric and every student can learn at their own pace. Now, I want to show some examples of subject integration that is happening. So, first one is practiced in one of the JNV Alapura. Here, the art teacher, just a second. Mr. Sachin Kumar, he facilitates beautifully integrated learning of subjects and physical education with art. I wanted to show that video. Okay. For some reason the video is not getting played, so I will just explain that this art teacher through the amusement parts in science and maths is beautifully integrating the learning of subjects through the medium of art, and it's a very beautiful blend. The next example I could say is the kitchen garden, one of the current initiatives promoted by the Ministry of Education, which is also practiced in some of the schools of Kerala, where the students are taught to think out of the way. Kitchen garden serves as a perfect example to integrate various subjects and also to impart intangible lessons like teamwork, planning, leadership skills, compassion, care, and empathy for Mother Earth. It also imparts knowledge on nutritional values, soil composition, even profit and loss lessons, you could say, composting, mensuration. So it's a beautiful blend of the integration of the subjects. And moreover, every student can emerge as young leaders and contribute to the self-sustainable community in terms of the food. Another very good example, this is I have taken from my own practice. Like there is a paper microscope called Foldscope, which is used as an educational tool to impart integration of different subjects and to develop curiosity among students. So here we had two full scope coordinators, one from Indira Gandhi High School, Puducherry, and one I was in my previous school, Kendriya Vidyalaya, Khanapara. So each student of the school, both KV as well as IGH school, we through this medium of full scope were looking at various aspects, like it could be local flora, local fauna, microbes, it could be the soil composition. So the subjects of interest depends upon the students as well as the teacher who is guiding. But the beautiful blend is that each team was visiting the other state. Like Puducherry team had come and visited our school and they shared their scientific findings with us. And our children had visited Puducherry and we shared the scientific findings collaboratively. In this, what I found is that it is not just the integration of the subjects that was happening, it was also integration of the life skills, integration of the 21st century skills with the learning that was happening. Children were able to communicate beautifully, effectively. They were able to work in a collaborative fashion and analyze things very critically. So it was a beautiful integration of life skills with the various subjects. The collaborative venture that we had, I could say that could be adopted with other educational tools as well. Now coming to the subject biotechnology that I teach, which itself is an interdisciplinary subject, this learning can be made interesting by real interesting experiences relevant to topics learned. Teaching can be focused on the patient through clinical presentations on a case based on the correlation to the content learned. It can be presented in a holistic fashion, in a coherent fashion, focused on biomedical professionals. So I personally think it's very important to link basic biological sciences with the clinical scenarios that will be faced as a future health professional. Children learn conciseness and precision in the organization of their ideas, which will help them to solve clinical cases. At the same time, their critical thinking, logical reasoning, problem solving, and even discipline and rigor will be developed through learning of basic sciences. Opening of growing minds to many things will give them a wholesome view of life. It instills capabilities in children to look through different perspectives and appreciate the variety and vastness of ideas and approaches. If an institution is opting for an integrated curricular model, they should decide which type of integration they want to adopt. If it is horizontal integration, which is involving several courses, it could be mostly simultaneous and occurring within a single academic year. But if it is vertical integration, on the other hand, which is built over time, over different academic years, they can choose to close between the basic and the clinical courses. As a meta statement, NEP is harmonizing the best of the West with the best of the East and will bring a huge transformation in Indian education scenario if properly implemented. Future India can proudly envision young leaders who are self-sustainable global citizens who work collaboratively for a better nation and for a better world. The skills and values will definitely help to create self-employment, but also employment for others. And any nation whose young minds are shaped in the harmony of head, heart and hand will be invaluable citizens in years to come. I once again thank Ministry of Education for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ramyaji, for your insights and for laying due emphasis on teaching how to think rather than what to think, which will be so important in 21st century education. Since we have a couple minutes, I thought I'd ask both of you. You've both explained so well the critical importance of multidisciplinary and holistic education with no hard separations. The goal being, to put it simply, to develop humans and not robots. What can we do to train teachers and to sensitize teachers to this, to effect this transformation? moving towards breaking these silos and to avoid these hard separations? What can we do to sensitize teachers to move in this direction towards holistic education that combines different subjects when one teaches? Maybe I'll ask Manuji first, just a couple minute responses at most. Any ideas you have in this direction when we moved forward with implementation? Manuji?
Yes. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, I think that everybody is actually talking about the implementation part, that we are talking about multidisciplinary, and if you're talking about integration, so how as teachers we need to move ahead with this. I think we like sometimes teachers, or maybe since the curriculum was such that we've been conditioned in that manner that this separation has been kind of ingrained the curriculum, and of course in the way we have started teaching. We actually teach in a manner where what the curriculum says, how the assessment route. So this is not in isolation. Whatever the policy says, it has to be, very rightly one of them said that all the stakeholders need to work together in this direction. So I think again there would be no hard separation that only one of the stakeholders must move ahead. So as teachers, I believe that it's very, very important for us to understand that that this separation, like once we move out of the school, when our students move out of the school, we understand the challenges that they go through because of this hard separation, and these students come back to us and share these challenges. So what teachers can do is that teachers themselves, first thing is that teachers themselves need to be oriented very, very well in this particular regard. It's not that we just move ahead without reading the policy or without sharing and discussing thoughts over this issue. We need to discuss on it, we need to share our view, we need to study, we need to learn the education systems of maybe other countries and how they are proceeding on it. We need to go through the global trends of researches in this regard. So I think as teachers, we cannot cease to learn. We need to discuss with our students the challenges that they face. We need to understand how this can be implemented well, and understanding ourselves that when we stream, when we club, when we combine the subjects like this, then it turns out to be in completely watertight compartment. And like the questions that I asked initially, that does only a CA need to study finance, or just engineer needs to study engineering and technology? We actually, when we interact with people, we understand. So as teachers, probably we need to study more, we need to be more aware of the policy, what the policy very rightly states, and then probably we can have meetings, we can have discussions, we can channelize our energies together as teacher by blending, by understanding that all these disciplines work in coherence, they are not in isolation. So I think we need to study a lot more, we need to learn a lot more.
Very good points, Manuji. Yeah, absolutely. Ramya ji, we'd love to hear your thoughts as well.
Yeah, one way is to have a continual professional development for the teachers, and I personally think that when a teacher is made to realize that what kind of changes he or she is bringing in the children, like how are they experiencing the joy when they are learning this kind of subjects that they have aptitude or interest, that is going to create a beautiful effect on the mindset of the teachers. And third is the reflexive practices. The teacher, I think personally, this helps the teacher to get the encouragement to perform to the utmost level in the very next class. And another thing is encouragement from every stakeholder, because since it is new, when it is going to get implemented, it is not going to go without any sometimes it might happen that it doesn't work from day one. So we should not be disappointed, or we should not be discouraged. In fact, we should learn from our mistakes, and all these encouragements from different stakeholders should enthuse us to adopt more innovative practices on our own way, and also from we can learn from others and move forward.
Thank you, Ramaji. Also, very good points. Absolutely. Well, we all know that both of you are going to be helping and leading the way towards carrying out these reforms. I take this opportunity to thank both of you, both of these award-winning teachers, for their insights and for their inspiration. Thank you. It's indeed very exciting that the school education system in Bharat will soon move towards this critical goal of holistic all-around education through the implementation of the NEP. And we all wish this important government initiative of the Ministry of Education great success. Thank you so much again to our outstanding two speakers, and thank you again to all our distinguished attendees. I pass it back now to Anita ji. Thank you again, and namaskar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Manch.
Thank you, Dr. Manjul Bhargav. I don't know if all of you know this, but Dr. Manjul Bhargav and Dr. Shakila Shamshu, who are present today, are in fact the members of the drafting committee of the National Education Policy, and the beautiful document that you see today is actually the handiwork in a large part. It's because of these two people's huge contributions to the policy document. So thank you, Manjulji, for handling this session, and thank you, Manuji and Ramyaji, and just for the information of all the listeners, because there was this talk about streams. I must inform you that the board of the central government, that is the Central Board of Secondary Education, does not have any stream system. Actually, it is the mindset of the schools which are encouraging streams. The board does not encourage it. The board allows any combination of subjects. However, schools are the ones who stick to streams, who believe in their mind that this is the way to, take the life of children forward. And I will, in fact, we look forward to this whole silo thing and this disparity in, in the system breaking down completely, and allowing the child the complete flexibility. The policy itself is so flexible. So even the child should have full participation in that flexibility. So thank you very much to all the speakers. I will now hand over to Dr. Shakila Shamshu for wrapping up for the day.
Thank you, Anita Madam, and I hope I do justice to this SHIKSHAK PARV, the first day of the two-day national conclave. Let me pay my salutations, respected Secretary of the School Education, senior officials who are gathered in the Ministry of Education, Professor Manjul Bhargav, the chairs of all the sessions that we had today, the NCERT, the KVS and NVS and other organizations. What I'm trying to do in the 10 to 15 minutes that have been given for wrap-up, we've had, firstly, let me mention that the videos that came in between by the Honorable Prime Minister talking about the various aspects that this policy says gives, and also his firm resolve to implement this policy actually would have added a lot of inspiration to many of us who would like to translate this on the ground. Second, we also had very insightful presentations from all the speakers, and the chairs have also been able to weave around these discussions and bring out very good learnings. The firm resolve made by the Secretary School Education that it looks at education in a single continuum, and reaffirming the fact that though this is a conclave that is largely touching upon the recommendations of school education, it sort of actually embeds within it a lot of recommendations which will impact higher education, and therefore the interwovenness and the interconnectedness between these two verticals are very, very significant and have been taken on board by the Ministry of Education even while holding this particular Shiksha PARV or the Education Festival. And it is truly a festival because today's day was a practitioner's day, and we've had 6 major areas which have touched upon the, I would say, the very critical areas of school education, starting with the idea of foundational literacy and numeracy, and talking about the art and joy integrated learning and early childcare education. And let me take in the post-lunch session, actually it was the downward upwards, the idea of no hard separation between the curricular frameworks should flow from the ECCE and the multilingualism and the mother tongue education, and then the holistic progress card. So these 6 sessions, and I must say that in the foundational literacy and numeracy, Shri Rakesh Gupta from Haryana with his 2 eminent speakers who have shared the Saksham Haryana program and the Prerna program of UP, and the learnings that they have in terms of learning enhancement programs, and so also the competency-based learning, creation of the teaching learning materials, the use of Diksha for the teacher training, and the kind of assessment changes that are needed to actually bring about the kind of the envisaged goals of foundational literacy and numeracy. Practical experiences of success being shown on the ground makes us have a lot of confidence that these practices can be replicable, and we only need to take on the challenge of how we can make it scalable to actually achieve the target of achieving foundational literacy and numeracy up to the grade 3 by 2025. The next session has talked about the art and joy integrated learning, which was chaired by Pavan Sudhir of the NCERT, and 2 very, very exciting presentations that were made by Sunita Rao on the art integrated learning, and also by Dr. Anju on the toy integrated learning. To be very frank, my exposure has been largely in higher education, and it was really a scintillating presentation by both of them that actually made me believe that experiential learning can actually be done. And I think Dr. Anju's conviction of the last 22 years, and she is with me as a speaker tomorrow also, that idea of experiential learning is something which made us realize that you don't need textbooks. Children can generate data on their own. You make it contextualized, you make it related to their own surroundings, use what nature provides around us, and decolonize ourselves from the kind of experiences that children have, including the fact that the dolls, you know, those were things that touched. And even as I speak, I'm having a hair-raising experience as I tell this and narrate that particular experience. Thank you, Dr. Anju, for that wonderful presentation. Dr. Sunita has also talked about how we integrate art into learning of languages. And it was very significant because from the point of view of multilingualism and also for mother tongue education, the fact that the listening part of it and the language learning, the abilities that we have for the listening and the reading, and then the writing and the speaking, that was being seen as an input and an output kind of a exercise, and where art can play a significant role in that, as well as for the learning of social sciences through arts, mathematics, and particularly on the inclusive education. I think both had touched upon it, but in particular the children with special needs and how the art integrated education can make children feel that they are as much capable and use all the kind of art techniques to actually feel that they are part of the mainstream without being seen as secondary to the others or less capable than the others. And therefore the equalizing ability that art integrated and toy integrated learning has come out very well, but largely more from, I would say, from Sunita Rao's presentation, and I think we should learn lessons from there. And the aspect what Dr. Anju said, which we should be able to take, is the mindfulness aspect and the ethical aspect and the learning with the consciousness of senses. So both these presentations, as I said, for me, and I think for all of us who are gathered here, have been extremely rewarding, because the kind of teaching learning that we need to move towards for experiential learning can only take place if we unlearn ourselves from the current manner in which we teachers conduct ourselves and move towards these kind of out-of-box thinking. I say that as a teacher because the one who's most resistant to change is the teacher. And unless we are able to change the mindset of the teacher, and the teacher's role in convincing the parent as the major stakeholder, the other major stakeholder in the child's life, because the child is not making the decisions at that stage at all. And therefore it is the parent and the teacher who are the God avatars for the child, and that the child is willing to take, because the child is so much in a molding stage, will accept all those changes. So actually I would feel that the NEP can be implemented not by the guidelines that the ministries bring about or the state governments bring about or the institutions bring about, but unless the parents, the community and the teachers work together to actually enrich the child's learning for better learning experiences, we would not have better learning outcomes and not prepare them for the challenges of the 21st century. On the ECCE, we had Professor Vinita Kaul, who's an authority in early childhood care and education, and I can fully understand, because when we had our discussions, and Manjul ji will bear me out, that when we sat in the UGC commission room and we discussed with Vinita Kaul ji about the integration of early childhood care and education, which was followed by the Ministry of Women and Child coming and speaking with us also, the emphasis on how much the neural networks get developed, that was so critical, and which was so well summarized by Kalpana ji in her presentation, where she talked about the neural synapses and how all stages of development, the brain and the physical development moving in parallel with the cognitive development, with the socio-emotional development, and the fact that we have to work collaboratively by conserving all the natural resources that we have, actually showed how children at a very early age can be integrated in a very seamless manner into going on to learner preparedness as they go forward. The same aspect was presented by Nisha Sharma, and where she said the school is a social space, and that is very critical, because she has laid down the importance of the roles of the parents as well as the community library, and accepted that all these contribute to a better learning space for the children, and therefore these have to be taken together to actually move forward in a manner where I would say the Anganwadi system, along with the schools and maybe the states, looking at all these success stories of how we can integrate early childcare education without a downward progression of the class 1 syllabi. And as was mentioned, that we should not be just using any writing materials or any learning materials like paper. Rather, the child would just be doing a discovery learning and a joyful learning at that stage. And I think some of their videos could not be played, but I'm sure we have learned the lessons that she wanted to convey to us. I'll not talk about the holistic report card first. I'll talk about the no hard separation, which was last touched upon, and how it flows from the fact that in the foundational stage and even in the preparatory stage, by these efforts, we are actually building on at the middle and the secondary stages to go on to our firm conviction that for the holistic development of the child, you need to encourage all their various capacities and their potentials and their talents. And therefore, the current silo-based perspective that we have of putting something as academic and condemning a child that you're not good in curricular subjects and therefore you have taken on co-curricular or extracurricular, and actually defeating the esteem of that child, because nothing can be more damaging to an individual than destroying the confidence and the self-esteem of a child. And the current system, unfortunately, has created a hierarchy of disciplines where we say engineering or medicine is superior to social sciences, or social sciences is superior to languages, or languages is superior to sports, or sports is superior to performing arts. We have created a hierarchy of disciplines and actually stifled our children. NASA tells us in a study that children think differently when they are young, but when they come out of the pipeline of the education system, we have created robots who think alike. So we have done a sizable damage, and therefore we have to unlearn and break the silo-based and move towards the demolishing and unshackling what we say the curricular, the co-curricular, and the extracurricular. And Professor Manjulji, who I think we both are more like friends, having worked on the committee together, and what all had got into the thinking of this particular recommendation. He has beautifully given his remarks to say how this affects all aspects of a child's development, ranging from the emotional, the physical, the cognitive, and ethical development of the child. And these were well expressed by Manuji and Ramyaji in their own perspectives, particularly from the point of Manu, who was trying to actually summarize and say how these envisaged goals could be translated through a kind of teacher training that we need to have, and how the teacher would be instrumental in breaking these silos. So also Ms. Ramya had said that we need to move towards global citizenship education, try for deeper learning, and most importantly what she has said is subject integration. Rather than the division, look at the integration of the subjects, so that at a metacognitive level, children will understand the interconnectedness of different subjects, which will provide for the holistic development of the child. Now, on the multilingualism, we had two very divergent views. Though I chaired the session, it was a challenge for me, because that I would personally feel is one of the most difficult recommendations to implement. So you had Dr. Ashok Pandey, who largely comes from a private sector, and where English is being spoken as the medium of instruction, and where there are a lot of apprehensions whether the preeminence of English would go by trying to promote mother tongue instruction. But it was heartening to note that he himself was able to take forward a view that no, because of learning in the mother tongue, it is not that the language learning will be destroyed, neither would it affect the learning levels of the child as the child goes into the advanced stages. And that is something which is very, very heartening for me to listen to, because we are largely wondering whether we will have a strong lobby which would come in the way of implementing the mother tongue instruction. Dr. Sandhya, who comes from an absolutely remote tribal area, has shared her experiences of how the states of Jharkhand and Odisha share their teaching resources, share their teachers to bring about language instruction in 5 languages, with multilingual dictionaries, with pictographical expressions. And this is heartening to note, because which gives us some sort of a sense of optimism that this challenging area would really be possible to be implemented. Now, on the holistic report card, we had Dr. Anju chairing the session, and Dr. Hannah and Shri Roychand, who had been the speakers. And Hannah's presentation in trying to say in Sikkim how they have been already trying to do a kind of a holistic progress card by plotting the performance of children across various aspects, ranging from discipline to academics to sports to music, and where children themselves are trying to sort of assess their performances, and where there is an incentivization being given by actually identifying someone as a star child for the week, and which therefore gives us that you can have a holistic progress card where you don't just judge the student on the terms of the marks of the grades in subjects alone, but in alignment with the NEP's other principles for the holistic assessment of the child. And if I may draw your attention, in the cardinal principles that we have outlined in the introduction chapter, the first line says to recognize and nurture the unique potential of every child, and to track that child through the progress that the child has in the journey of his or her education. And this cannot be possible unless you have a holistic progress card. And therefore, as teachers who are actually to do this, Dr. Hannah's presentation that we will have to look at various aspects of the 21st century skills being imbibed and actually have a progress card which reads like a book on the child's strengths and weaknesses and potentials, and which when the child is getting, as the child completes the age of 18 and completes the secondary stage, it is like a for the child, it is like someone who tells what is my strength and what I need to pursue, and for the parent to understand what the child can take forward, and for the teacher to then guide the student that these are your weak areas and you need to strengthen on that. So the holistic progress card that Hannah has presented, which requires a lot of teacher training, because you see, for all this assessment, we have touched on the curricula, we have touched on the teaching learning processes and the pedagogies, and the most important aspect is the assessment. Because unless you change the assessment pattern, you are not likely to then go about making those changes in the curricula as well as in the teaching learning processes. So it is important that teachers understand what is the final outcome and what we are going to assess, to then actually work backwards to see how the curricula needs to be aligned in that manner, and see how our pedagogies by using art integrated and toy integrated and other joyful learning methods come into the picture. So assessment through the holistic progress card has been one experience that Dr. Hannah had shared, and Dr. Roy Chand, I think, is a living example of trying to tell us that you have about 3% of the people who are actually the dreamers, and therefore the angel who bring out all sorts of ideas that you see today in digital commerce and so on. And then you have the knowledge thinkers who then make up for what most of us are involved in, and then the skilled workforce. And what was most appreciable in that was that he did not feel that this was a hierarchy. He felt that this was all important for the holistic progress card achievement of the child, and therefore that each of these were achievers. And I think that is the spirit in which we need to really move forward in these 6 important areas touching the early education in the school level, which will then determine the quality of our learners who then flow into the higher education system. So I think we've had a very substantial takeaways today. And I'm sure when the rapporteurs put this all together, we will have the micro details also available with us. I think I must have done justice, and I thank all the chairs and the speakers who have contributed to this very enriching and engaging presentations, to each one of you. And I hope that we take forward this learnings from this first day session from the practitioner's point of view. Thank you. Thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Shakila, for wonderfully summing up today's conclave. Now, I would like to invite Director NCERT Professor Hrishikesh Senapati for the concluding remark.
Thanks for the invitation. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, Dr. Senapati. Just speak a little louder.
I'm very happy that today we have discussed something on 6 areas. But when we combine everything, it is all.
You need to raise your volume or come closer to your device. You are not. The volume is not good.
Okay. Okay, madam. I think now I am audible.
Yes, now you are audible.
Okay. Okay. So I am very happy that we have discussed something on 6 different areas, but when we combine everything, it is all related to pedagogical reform. I am very happy to state that when we started today's session, Secretary Madam initiated that every learner is unique. If every learner is unique, then the same pedagogy is not going to serve the purpose. If the same pedagogy is not going to serve the purpose, then we have to follow different pedagogy, different approach, different method to cater to the need of each and every learner. And the big question is how to assess. really, if we want any change in the system, we have to bring about change in the process of assessment. If really we want to implement national policy on education 2020, first, the topmost priority is reform in assessment, reform in examination. Once that is done, then automatically there will be change in the classroom process. Automatically there will be change in the teacher training program. There will be change in the textbook. There will be change in our approach, and our parents also will change their mindset. And ultimately, we can have a good system of education, and that will cater to the need of 21st century. I am really grateful to all the chairpersons of this 6th section, Professor Manjul Bhargar, Professor Akila Samsu, Professor Vinita Kau, Madam Anju, Dr. Pavan Sudhi, Sri Rakesh Gupta, for conducting the session very effectively, very meaningfully, lot of interaction. And one thing I would like to highlight, that when we are talking about this foundational literacy, numeracy, really we want to develop these skills and competency. And here again we are talking about the pedagogical approach, that art integrated learning, that we can make it more meaningful, more presentable, talking about the early childhood education. One thing comes to my mind, because I know when I was a student, I was doing my PhD, I was just going through that there are 3 types of knowledge. One is social knowledge, we learn from people's reaction. Another knowledge, that is the physical knowledge, that we learn through discovery. Third is the logical mathematical knowledge, that we learn through invention. So 2 methods are there, one is discovery, one is invention. And we can discover, our children can discover that the physical knowledge by in this art integrated learning, that some experiments we can put something in the water, whether it will float or sink. That we can discover, our children can discover. But it is very difficult to invent. Ultimately, we are leading towards invention. We are going to empower our children to invent the rules and principles, so that actually they can construct their knowledge, and that will really bring about change in the entire system of education. If we can promote this approach, if we allow our children to invent, if we can make them autonomous learner, if we can allow them to invent the rules and principles, it is not there in their cognitive structure. When they experience, when they interact with others, when they get different type of exposure, and when they are exposed to a very conducive learning environment, they try to invent. They try to invent the rules and principles, and in the process they learn. Because initially our reasoning is guided by perception, then it becomes logical. Initially it is transacting from particular to particular, then it is from particular to general, from it is general to particular. So, as a teacher educator, we have to understand the developmental characteristics, and that is why we are discussing now very nicely, very thoroughly, very effectively different areas, so that we can move towards a holistic approach. And when we say holistic, and now no hard separation, what is that? Now in learning theory, you see cognitive, affective, psychomotor. Now we say everything is one. Everything is integrated. No separation between curricular, co-curricular, no separation different subjects. We are moving towards holistic approach, multidisciplinary approach, very flexible in nature, and how we are going to implement. Ultimately, if we can help our children to develop their potentiality, their creative potential, then they can contribute. That will be the real contribution to this system. And that we can do by providing the right type of environment, conducive environment, where our children can invent, not only discover, they can invent. And if they can invent the rules and principles, then definitely they can be good citizens, they can take right decision, they can contribute significantly in every area. And here, in this all these 6 areas, we have discussed everything. And most important that multilingualism, because I know there is some discussion from Odisha. When I was a student, I remember when I was doing my post graduation in Odisha SCRT, they are preparing primer for tribal students. Mother tongue is not Odia, and the textbooks are developing in Odia, but they are preparing primer using different tribal language. I was doing my post in the 80s. Around 40 years, now a lot of research have been conducted. And now it has been proved if children learn through their mother tongue, then they can comprehend, that will help in their cognitive development and also in the development of other areas. So they can, that will be something great. And that this policy has taken care of that multilingualism, and that will bring about a significant change in our teaching learning process. And other things what we have suggested, that preschool foundational literacy, numeracy, and all the things we have highlighted, and Dr. Shakila has highlighted everything, and I don't want to speak on this, but my focus is on to help our children to develop their creative potential by empowering them, by creating a very conducive learning environment where they will get opportunity not only to discover but to invent. If we can do that, really we can implement this policy, and whatever has been suggested by the policy, experiential learning, no separation, and assessment by students, by peer, by self, by teacher, all these can be implemented in a holistic manner, because assessment is not something isolated, it is not separate from teaching learning, it is an integral part of teaching learning. When we see from a holistic perspective, we can understand everything in a better way, and we can implement it in a better way. And what in the initial remark, and the Secretary Madam highlighted, that we need the cooperation of all the state governments, cooperation of all the organizations, autonomous bodies, all the NGOs, and everybody to implement this policy, because this is the policy in 21st century. We can implement if we join hands together, and really we can bring about change. We can really help our children to develop their potentialities, and we can make our country we can take our country to a new height. That will be the significant contribution. And I am grateful for giving me this opportunity, and I hope we all will join hands together to implement this policy, because we are going to develop national curriculum framework, 4 national curriculum framework for school education, for early childhood education, adult education, and also teacher education. And that definitely our roadmap will be very clear for implementation, and really we can implement this. And thank you very much, and I wish all the best. Thank you.